This is a pit stop on the way to our purpose. This day is a pit stop. It's a moment. It's a great moment. It's going to be a fun moment. It's an exciting moment. But it's not the moment. Do you understand? Sure. Our greatest moment is not going to take place today or tomorrow. Our greatest moment is going to take place when maybe no one will see. It may just be around your family. It may just be around hanging out around your offensive line. It may be that great moment when you're acknowledged for your sacrifice for those you care about. Your greatest moments as a man will never be in your statistics or your scholarships. Your greatest moments will never be in the moment which you get to win. Your greatest moment is when you look into the eyes of the people you interact with, the people you care about. And you just know in that moment that there's a connection. Something special just happened. Something that only you two share. This is what you're going to get the opportunity to do with your teammates. That's not our opportunity. That's yours. You've earned it. You see, you have that moment with people you've sacrificed to serve. You have that moment with people that you care about, that you love. You've taken the risk to do things others weren't willing to do. When you were willing to do something as a servant, as a man, that others weren't willing to do, you have that moment with that person who you served. First with your teammates and your families, and hopefully in your high schools, and then your colleges, and then you're going to change the world. That's what we want. In order to make that happen, there's going to be a duel. D-U-E-L. I looked up the word duel, and it means the brandishing of weapons by two men to settle a point of honor. Well, there's nobody going to war like that today here. This is a metaphor, right? The metaphor of the duel for us is to compete with one another, yeah. But there's a bigger duel going on here. The two men inside you, the one who doesn't want to be who he says he was, and the one who does. And both sides are brandishing weapons right now inside you. The weapons of the other guy are self-doubt, self-serving attitudes, emotions, pride, the wrong kind. All those things that make you not the guy we need you to be. Then there's the other guy. The man who understands the values that make a man great. Sacrifice, discipline, determination, persistence, perseverance. All those words you're learning the value of in the weight room. And being men of Passio. That's the duel. The duel you're fighting is to settle a point of honor in your own heart. We talked a lot about what Passio is. The willingness to do what others will not, so that others can get what they need. That is an unapologetic, unreserved step in the direction of making others better. And that's who we are, right, men?
Yes, sir.
But you're also going to be required to take another step. This is the hard one. You think Passio's tough in the presence of other people. Honor's even harder. Settling the point of honor is even more difficult. Why? Because you often have to do that with nobody watching. You have to be who you said you would be when no one's there deciding for you. In fact, you're free to choose not to. Thus begins the war. I don't know what it is for you, but there'll be a moment inside of you when you're going to have to settle the point of honor. Will you be the man you said you would be? Will you be a man of honor? Or will you be the man who will end up with regret? See, that's the other guy. The other guy is the one who lives with the regret of a poor decision. And that's what the D represents. Decision. It's the first step to understanding how to prepare for this duel. There's a decision that has to be made. And every step along the way, the beginning, the outset of the altercation, the outset of the scrimmage, the outset of the war is a decision. If you're going to win the duel, you must decide first. If you decide for the other guy, you've already lost. I can't help you. I'm not asking you to be a perfect person. I'm asking you to be who you said you'd be. And I know right now in your heart, most of you have said, I want to be a man of honor. That point is settled first by the D, the decision. You must decide that I'm going to be a man of honor. That means when no one's watching, you got to have integrity. You're the same guy. You're trustworthy, you're dependable. I can't make that decision for you. But down deep where no one goes, you have the privilege of that choice. That's what makes you who you are, is the choice. That's the privilege of manhood, is the choice. That's what you're fighting your parents for. I don't want you to tell me I can do anything I want, Mom and Dad. I just want the choice. Well, you got it. This is the choice. Am I going to cheat? Am I going to take shortcuts? Take performance-enhancing drugs? Cut my workouts? Short my workouts? Or am I going to be a man of honor and do what I said I would do? The second step to winning the duel of your own heart is you must understand your weakness. You must come to terms with where you're weak. There's two parts to this. You must understand your weakness, and you must understand what's expected of you by others. I think a lot of young men are winging it. There's no plan. All you're doing is covering until you get caught. What do you mean, Coach? None of us wants to be exposed for not having our act together. So some of us are faking it. You haven't done the work in the weight room, you haven't been running, you haven't been preparing. The last thing you want to do is be caught not ready. You must understand yourself. If you're a big talker, not a doer, you got to deal with that. You got to understand yourself enough to admit, I got to get better. I got to suck it up. Once you understand that process, then you can move into the maturity of that process, and that is being willing to understand the expectations of others and meet those. Some of you don't care about either of them. Hey, I am who I am, man. I do what I do. That's not good. Everybody here is trying to work through some weakness, trying to get better somehow. If you can't acknowledge that, then there's no war. You're kidding yourself. You'll be another casualty on the highway to greatness. You got to understand your weakness, and you got to understand the expectations that are upon you. To make it simple, guys, you got to take responsibility for yourselves. You got to take responsibility for yourselves. You can't expect your parents to continue to make up for where you lack. You deal with your weaknesses, you meet the expectations and exceed them that others have of you. You understand? Yes, sir. The third one is E. E. You got to execute. This is the part where most of us assume, well, I got that. Let me tell you what. One thing I found in my life of trying to be what I said I would be is follow through is hard. I may understand my weakness, and you know what? That's fine, we'll just leave it right there. I'm not going to do anything about it. Oh, I didn't say you had to stop there. I just said you got to understand it, right? The next step is you got to do something about it. You got to execute. You have got to do what you said you would do. If you made a promise to be a workout warrior, then by God, you made mistakes, you lost heart, let's get in the game, right? If you said you were going to serve your teammates, then by God, start now. Even if you haven't started, let's start doing something. Move the change. Execute. You know, as I said before, this isn't about doing everything perfectly. You're going to lose yards some days. You're going to make mistakes. But the most successful people I know are not people who've done everything perfectly. In fact, they failed more than they've succeeded. The people who made it were the ones who just didn't stop. They just kept executing. Do you understand? They kept doing what they said they would try to do. They didn't give up. Some of you won't be honest about the fact that deep down where no one goes, you're scared to death. That's okay. I am too. But I live with this understanding that no matter what happens outside of me, I can do something about what's going on inside of me, right? So I'm going to execute. I'm going to be the best I can be for those that I claim to love and serve. Can you do that? Sure. That's all I need. I don't need you to win ball games as your coach. I don't need you to be awesome. I need you to simply be the man who can help me move the chains. You got to execute. Don't give up between the U and the E. That's where a lot of people quit. They look at their weaknesses and they go, it's too much. They look at their weaknesses, it's no point. They look at their weaknesses and say, I can't get there. And they lose the duel right there. You can walk out here today and lose the duel because of fear. You can be afraid of competing. Why? Because all you see is your weakness. No. You got to go to the E, man. You got to execute in spite of it. That's the courage to look fear in the eye and say, you know what? It ain't about always being awesome. It's just, I promised. I promised. It's a point of honor. It's a point of honor. I will be what I said I will be. So fear, hit the road. Now, how in the world do you do that? Well, the L is the key. The L unlocks all of them. You got to love who you do it for. You got to love who you do it for. If you're doing this to get a certificate, if you're here today because you want an award, there's nothing wrong with the basic desire, but you got to go deeper or you're not going to get there. You must love the people around you beyond the idea of feelings and emotions. You love them through your actions and your words. Does that make sense? So you serve them. You go out of your way to be gracious to them. You communicate gratitude first to your parents and your family and your coaches. You show up early. You stay late. You do the things that people who love others do. You are truly men of Passio. Men who absorb suffering and sacrifice like it's breakfast. Why? Because you're not afraid anymore. You were a little afraid when you came along. I got to understand my weakness. You struggle when E came along. I know it's hard to execute. Oh, but when the L came, I'm good. Because I love him. I'm going to do it anyway. Love overcomes fear. Love destroys fear in competition. When you go out on Friday night, don't go out there to win the scoreboard. Go out there because you love your teammates. That'll take all the fear and make it go away. Look to the guy to your right and your left who you've sweat with, worked hard with, and tell him you love him and go out and win, not because the scoreboard says you're a winner, but because the guy next to you says, hey, I'm with you. That's what makes this work, man. We settle the point of honor at the L. The point of honor is most reflected in that last word. Love. That's where we're best seen for the men we are. Your decisions, your depth of understanding, the quality of your execution will all be enwrapped and defined by your love. Your love for others, your love for your brothers and sisters, your family, your coaches, your teammates, your level of sacrifice, your level of discipline, all of it is defined by the love you have. Love settles the point of honor. What honor, Coach? Yours. See, the champion only gets to be that for a moment. other words, you're going to win this. That's a reflection of your skill set, your effort, all the things. And you know what? We applaud it. But you're only champion for a moment, right? But honor lasts a lifetime. Honor is something a man lives with and draws his greatest value from. What's that, Coach? Respect. The greatest thing coming to you is not an award or money or possessions or victories. It's respect earned through honor. There's a duel going on, man, and you're fighting one. And I respect when I look in the eyes of a group of men like you that you're not here just for football. I know it. I can tell it in your eyes. Wherever I run into you, I see it. You're trying. That's all we need. You're not going to win them all, but I need you to try. You see, honor's not just something you get for yourself. Honor expands. Honor is what everybody feels when you're being that way. You're honoring the people who've invested in your life. You're settling the point of honor for the people who've invested in you. So when you're being a man of honor, you're honoring us. You're honoring your parents. You're honoring your coaches. You're honoring your team. But when you give up, you give in to that other guy. You know the other guy. You do. I know. Some days he's got you locked down and beating the snot out of you. I know. I know that guy. There's days I'm not quite the man of honor I want to be. But I'm going to tell you what. I am so excited. Because sitting before me are not 150 men who can throw a football well, although you are not 150 men who play the greatest game ever created, sitting in one of the most storied stadiums of all time. That's pretty cool. That has its own value. I'm sitting in the presence of 150 men who are on the threshold of greatness. Because they're buying into an idea that's bigger than themselves. You're buying into something that's bigger than the game of football. It's bigger than the idea of yourself being who you want to be. And just maybe, if we can get enough of these guys like you to decide that honor matters, just because it does, if we can get you to decide that it's worth the war, if we can get you to understand that we need you to be what you said you would be, now, if we can get you to execute at a higher level than you ever have, despite the fear, despite the tendency you had to run from fighting. I'm not talking about fist fighting, I'm talking about the decisions, of the hard decisions of sacrifice and selflessness and maturity. And I can get you to believe that it's worth it to choose to love someone who maybe doesn't like you back. To love a guy next to you who doesn't seem to be anything but selfish. If there's somewhere inside of you that God has placed in you the freedom to make that so, we won't just influence the game of football, guys. We're going to change the world. So in case you lose heart, in case you start to feel like, well, it isn't really possible what he's talking about. I'm not rich. I don't have a lot of money. These guys know. But I've got men like him. I've got men like him and men like him. I am wealthy beyond description. Why? Because I have men of honor around me who are willing to go to war with me for your heart. So in case there's a part of you that doubts whether this is worth it or not, look around at you what's happening today. I had 25 of those men standing up here a minute ago, and we got a bunch more beyond them. They just couldn't come. In case you wondered if there's honor here, behind you are moms and dads who would give their lives for your honor. So what does all that mean to me now? I want you to go out there today and Be the best you've ever been. Have fun. Have a great time. Enjoy this moment. You've earned it. You did the work. You drew the invitation. You're remarkable men already. But it doesn't stop here, does it? This isn't the moment. Your moment is coming. And I can't tell you what that moment will be, but you'll know it. It could be an emotional one, it could be an easy one, it could be a tough one, it could be a great one, doesn't matter. You'll know it when it comes. And there'll be many of them, hopefully. That moment when you've won the duel. You decided, you understood, you executed, and you loved. And you settled the point of honor in that moment. At that moment, you're going to understand what true victory is.